Hello friends, welcome to the session on programming in Python. In this session, we'll be discussing about how to write functions in the Python programming language. In this session, we will discuss what we mean by functions, what are the advantages of using functions in the Python programs, what is the syntax associated with the user-defined functions. We will also see the different types of functions, and we will also discuss the concept of local variable and global variable in the Python program. Friends, as you know that you are viewing this session on my YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to the channel so that you can watch many other videos on the subjects of electronics and computer science. So let us start the session with the question what we mean by functions in the Python programs. Functions are a very useful facility that is being provided in almost all programming language. In real life, one can easily observe that for a human being, it is not possible to perform all the tasks by the one person. So, for example, you are holding some bike with you in order to travel within the cities. And if you have been asked to maintain the bike on your own, then you will find it difficult. So you need to take the bike to the garage in order to maintain the bike or in order to service the bike. So in real life, one can easily observe that we take the help of many people in order to get the task done. In programming also, whenever we have been assigned a very large task, then that task can be divided into smaller subtasks. And for each subtask, we can write a self-contained code. And this self-contained code that is being written for the specific task is being called as a function. Or many times it is also called as a procedure, or in some programming languages, it is also called as a subroutine. So you can say that any Python program can be a collection of functions. So once you are familiar with writing the functions, then you will find that frequently we can go for writing functions in the Python programming language. Now, why should we write functions in the Python program? There are certain advantages that we will get when we make the use of functions. When we use functions, then we avoid the rewriting of the same code again and again. That is, whenever a function is being written for a specific task, and if you want to perform the same task in the same program or in another program, then you can use the same function. That is, it will reduce you writing the same code again. It will reduce your efforts of writing the same code again. Also, you can use the function many number of times. Once you have developed and tested a function, then that can be used any number of times within the programs. Also, function supports the modularity approach for the design of the program. So as I said, whenever we have a large task, then it is always better that you can divide the large task into modules. And further, the modules can be divided into different smaller subtasks. And for each subtask, you can write a function. So such type of the approach of the design is being called as the modularity approach. So with the help of the functions, it is possible that we can easily achieve this modularity approach within our design of the program. Development of the code is much easier when we make the use of the functions, because our main program code size will get reduced because of the functions. It is also possible that whenever we develop certain code, then it is needed to be maintained. So the maintenance of the code will also be much easier with the help of the functions. And one can say that whatever the features are there with any programming language, then those features can be extended by making the use of the functions. So those features which are not readily available, for those features, you can go on developing the functions. And ultimately, what you are doing is that you are extending the features of the programming language. As far as a Python programming language is concerned, there are two types of the functions. The first is being called as a library function, and the second one is being called as a built-in function. So you can say that the library function or the built-in function are the functions for which the code is readily available, and the user-defined functions are those functions which are written by the programmer or user, and for which the code has to be written by the programmer. Say, for example, as far as the language Python is concerned, one can easily find that Python has a large collection of functions. There are many built-in functions available. Say, for example, we have functions such as absolute, input, print, max, min, and so many other. As far as the functions are concerned, already we have used input function in several programs. Print function is also used in the several programs. In last session, we have seen the range function. So many functions already we have been using in our programs. And now in this session, we'll be discussing how to create or how to write the user-defined functions. So whenever user needs to write a function, then user can create his own function, and he can assign any name to the function. So for example, he can assign a name such as bubble sort, search, or compute grade. So such type of the names can be assigned as per the requirement of the program. So let us see how the user-defined function can be created by the user or programmer. A function definition has to be written, and a function definition will begin with the word definition, DEF, and the syntax for creating the user-defined function is like this. So you initially write this keyword def, then you have to put down the function name, and then you can put down the parameter list, parameter 1, parameter 2, parameter 3, and then you close the brackets and then put the indentation mark or colon mark, and then you can write some set of instructions that can be called as a block of the function. So parameters are optional thing, means a function may have parameters or function may not have parameters. So whenever we put anything in the square bracket in the syntax, that indicates that it is an optional thing. Also, one can find that the function header will always end with the colon, and the function name should be the unique name. So any identifier name can be a function name, and the rules of naming the identifier will also be applicable to the function. The statements, you can write as many statements as you want, but the statements outside the function indentation are not considered as a part of the function. So in Python, whenever you are using a Python, then one has to remember that this indentation plays very important role in determining the block of the statement. So whenever you want to include any function statement, then the indentation must be followed. And whenever you want to call a function, then calling method is very simple. That simply you write down the function name, and at that point of program, the function will be called by the interpreter. So these are some simple programs about the functions. So for example, we want to add two numbers. So we are defining a function def add number colon. There are no parameters used over here. We are asking user to enter the first number. Number 1 is equal to integer input, enter first number. Number 2 is equal to integer input, enter the second number. And then we are making the addition of these two numbers. Sum is equal to number 1 plus number 2. And then we are printing the sum. The sum of number 1 and number 2 is sum. So one can easily observe all these four statements are the part of the function. And if I want to call a function, simply I will write the name of the function add number. And when I execute this part of the program or this code by using Python interpreter, then the message will be displayed, enter first number. Suppose the number entered is 23. Then the message will appear, enter second number. Suppose the number entered is 56. And then we will get the message, the sum of 23 and 56 is 79. This is another function, sum of n, where n we are making the use of parameter, and initially we will assign the sum value equal to 0. Then we are making the use of the loop for I in the range 1 to n plus 1 colon sum is equal to sum plus I, and then we are printing the message the sum of the first n natural number is sum. So number is equal to integer input. We are asking the user to enter the value for n, and then we are passing this value as a parameter in the function call. Sum of n in the bracket we write number. So when we execute this part of the code, then the message will appear on the screen, enter the value for n, which is 10. Then the sum of the first 10 natural numbers is 55. This message will be displayed on the screen. Let us understand the concept of global and local variable. In Python, the variable that is declared outside any function or any block of the statements is being called as a global variable. And as far as global variable is concerned, it can be accessed in any function which are defined onwards. Any change that is being made to the global variable will impact all the functions in the program where that variable can be accessed. A variable that is defined inside the function body or inside any block, that is being called as a local variable. And it can be accessed only within that block where it is defined. And it will exist only till the function executes. So for example, I have written a small program where the number is equal to 5. So number is defined outside the function. So one can say that it is a global variable. Definition, my function 1, no parameters, colon y is equal to number plus 5. And within the function, we are printing the message accessing the global number in my function, and we are printing the value. We are printing the message accessing local variable of my function, and we are printing the value of y. Then we are calling the my function 1, and then we are printing the message accessing outside the function number, accessing outside the function y. So when I execute this part of the code, then you will find that you will get the message accessing number in my function value is 5, accessing y, which is a local variable of which value is 10. Accessing number outside the my function, you will get the value 5. But when you try to access y outside the function, which is in fact a local variable, then it cannot be accessed, and therefore the error message will be printed on the screen that the name y is not defined. So y can be accessed only within the function, which is a local variable, but number is a global variable, and hence it can be accessed within the function as well as outside the function. So thank you friends for viewing the session. Hopefully you have understood how to define a function in the Python and the concept of global and local variables. So thank you all for viewing the session.